Hi friends, welcome back to day 3 of our watercolor tip a day series for World Watercolor Month. Today we're talking about the star of the show, watercolor paint. There are so many types out there and I want to help you figure out what works best for you. I know it can get overwhelming, so let's get started. So there are a few ways that watercolor is packaged and it can definitely get so super overwhelming. So that is the point of this video. I'm going to walk you through each one and how to use them. First up, we have tubes. So tubes hold concentrated wet paint, and then you squeeze them into a ceramic palette, a porcelain plate, or a plastic palette, and then you let them dry overnight, and then they're good to go. Next up, we have our pan palettes or cake palettes. These are dry and then you reactivate them with water. They're easy to travel with. They come with built-in mixing trays most of the time. Sometimes they're even removable, so you can change them up. I really love this form. And there's also liquid watercolor, so let's get into all of this. So watercolor paint is made of two things, pigment and a binder. The pigment gives it color and it can be natural, mineral-based, or synthetic. And the binder is usually a gum arabic, which helps the pigment stick to the paper while still letting the water move around freely. You can actually see it here. It can come out sometimes in your tubes, but that's okay. You can just mix it up and go ahead and use it just like you would. So here I am swatching one of my tube paints. This is actually a student grade. They come in professional and student grade. Student grade is more affordable, but it has more fillers and less pigment, which can make blending harder and the results less vibrant. I love Winsor & Newton student grade paint in the Cotman series. Sometimes I don't even notice a difference. It's really, really great and super affordable. Now, professional grade has more pigment, better flow, and stronger color payoff, plus it's usually more light fast, meaning it won't fade over time. Now I'm going to show you how to read any tube of paint. So first you're going to see the name of the paint, and you'll have it in different languages, the brand name and logo, so this is Winsor & Newton. Then you'll see if it's a professional watercolor, and then I'll have the series on it, which pertains to the cost, and then the permanence, which is basically how durable or long-lasting the paint is over time. And then you'll have the paint tube volume on the bottom. And then let's flip it over. You might want to look for this label. It's called AP, and that means it's an approved product. It's a safety label that tells you the paint has been tested by toxicologists. It's certified non-toxic, even with long-term use. Because a quick heads up, some pigments like cadmium, red, or yellow still contain heavy metals. Most brands use safer products now, but just to be sure, don't eat while you're painting and wash your hands. And if you're unsure, just look for that AP label. Then we have the manufacturer's address. So this is made in France, and then you're going to see this little box somewhere on the tube. This one's on the back, and this is going to show you everything that you need to know about color opacity and lightfastness. So there's the lightfastness rating, and then whether or not this box is filled is going to tell you about the paint. So when it's filled like this, that means it's opaque. Open like this means it's transparent. Filled like this halfway is semi-opaque, and then if there's like a line right down the middle, it's semi-transparent. And then here you have the lightfastness ratings as well, those little asterisks. And then this paint just has everything that the last one had on it. So it's just really a matter of finding where it is on the tube. You have the name, the make, My Mary Blue, and then all the different names. It could be made in Italy is different on this one. It's not on the back. And then they have the SKU, the AP approved. And if you're not sure about what lightfastness is, that is just how resistant a paint is to fading when it's exposed to light. Also, if you don't see it on the tube for some reason, you can check the manufacturer's website. It'll usually be there, or it'll just be kind of hidden like this one. It doesn't have a box. It's a little different, but all the info's there. Now, some colors in watercolor are staining and some aren't staining. So some colors sink in and are hard to lift, and others can be softened or wiped back. So colors like this one, this is an ultramarine violet, and then phthalo turquoise, those types of colors, they're going to be staining. As you can tell by my hands are stained. You can see it here, but that means that when I swatch this and it dries, it's going to be a little bit harder to lift this paint, and it's really going to settle into the pigments. Whereas you have a granulating paint like a raw umber or a aqua teal, which I will swatch next. This is when the pigment particles are going to settle into the texture of the paper, and it creates this beautiful natural texture. It's so beautiful in the right context, and it's so fun to play with. So we will definitely go more into this in depth. but here I am trying to lift that stain once it's fully dry, and it is definitely a bit difficult to do so. It's possible, but it is a bit difficult. And then I want to just show you a little bit more of the granulating paint. So this is aqua teal. There's a few colors that are known to granulate more, which we're going to definitely get into again. But this one is just one of my favorites. It looks so beautiful, and once it dries, you're really going to see the beautiful granulating textures. And this is a lovely way to get texture in your painting without actually using techniques. So some people will just paint with granulating paints. You see that? It's just such a beautiful natural texture, and some might think it's a mistake, but it's really not. It's just all paints are so different and so lovely. And then we have our pan palettes or our cake palettes, and these usually come in sets, and it's a great way for you to get a whole bunch of colors without having to go buy a bunch of individual tubes of paint, because it can get very expensive. And you can get professional quality. Most of the time you will find more student grades in these, but I love them because they're so nice to travel with, or just like put away and put to the side, less cleanup, and you can interchange some of the colors. Some of them have removable pans, but yeah, great option. Next up we have watercolor inks. They are super vibrant, highly pigmented, and they're kind of like watercolor on steroids. They're great for bold color, fine detail, or when you want like very intense saturation. I typically use acrylic inks because I like to paint on these canvases, but I have used watercolor inks. I like both, but you're going to be able to do the same thing that you do with watercolor, but it's just a little bit more intense. So you can do wet into wet, or you can literally just paint flat right on the paper with it. You can drop in for those really beautiful bleeds and blooms. If you want more of a very loose floral, you can use hot press paper with this, and I found that is really, really fun. And then you can even layer these. Next up we have metallic paint. I'm not going to go too crazy into detail with this because I will have a whole video about these, but as you can see, these are very well loved. So you can get these in different forms as well. These are little paint dots that I get from KMS, and then they come in palettes like this one. They come in liquid form as well. Like I have this acrylic ink shimmer one. So yeah, it's all different. And then yeah, there are some metallic, some shimmer, so some might be gritty. Then we will touch also on neon or fluorescent paint after this, but let's get to swatching some of these just to show you the difference. So you're always going to want to activate these the same way by putting a dot of water, let them get really activated, especially with metallics, and you can see the difference in the sheens on certain types of metallic paint. So some are going to be like super shimmery and some are going to be very sheer. So this is the only way to really practice. So this one has more of a translucent sort of sheerness to it, and then some of them will have literal like sparkles in them, which I will show you. This midnight one, it actually has some sparkles in it. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. I love to use metallics to finish off paintings, like add little details or add very sheen layers. If you're into that, these are just such a fun way to elevate your paintings. And there's also so many different brands that you can choose from, so have fun with them. Next up, I'm going to just swatch some of these fluorescents, or as she calls them, neons, and you do the same thing. You really want to activate these, especially if they're sort of like a matte paint, which these are, because you really want to make sure that that water is really incorporated into the color, because with these we want them to be pretty opaque. But as you add more water, of course they're going to be less transparent, but you can see how insanely vibrant these are. These are just so much fun to play with. I don't use them often, but when I do, it's just such a serotonin boost. And now you can see these metallics dry and the different sheens and finishes each one has. It's so much fun seeing all the different ways that you can play with paint. That's a wrap for now. Whether you're using tubes, pans, liquids, or inks, now you know how to get the most out of them. And if you're into these quick daily tips, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about one of the most overlooked essentials: how to set up your workspace efficiently so that you're not digging through supplies every time you sit down to paint. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you tomorrow.